Thank you, P.S. Gvomatanga, who is the Master of Ceremonies this afternoon. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe and Commander-in-Chief of Zimbabwe Defense Forces, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa. The Executive Secretary for the ECA, UNECA, Dr. Clever Gatete. I recognize Ambassador Rebecca Nsanzabaganwa. I tried to do it without reading. I think I got it right. Nsanzabaganwa. I recognize Ambassador from Uganda, representing the Minister of Uganda, who is the outgoing chair of the Bureau. I recognize Honorable Richard Moyo, the Minister responsible for this province, as Minister of State responsible for issues here and devolution as well. I recognize the Deputy Minister of Finance, Economic Development, Investment Promotion, Honorable David Mnangagwa, who will give the vote of thanks later. I recognize all the ministers present in the room, but also who are connected virtually. Recognize you all and other senior officials. Colleagues and Your Excellency, I see heads of various international agencies, IFIs. I see an old friend, Dr. Muthae Maruping, VP Victoria Kwakwa, the Vice President of the World Bank for Africa, covering the regions of East and Southern Africa, head of the UN agencies here in Zimbabwe, Ambassador Edward Kellon, Dr. James Manyiga, our invited guest, who will give a lecture on artificial intelligence and economic development in Africa, and he's a Senior Vice President of Google. I see Ambassador Thomas from the NEPOD projects, Ambassador Rebecca Greenspan, who is the Executive Secretary for UNCTAD, the two vices to Dr. Gatete, the UNECA, Hanan Mosi, Antonio Pedro. I could go on and on, all protocols observed. In my humble honor, Your Excellency, and privilege, it is my humble honor and privilege to welcome you, Your Excellency, to the 56th session of the UNECA Conference of African Ministers of Finance, Planning and Economic Development, also known as COM2024, which is being held under the theme, Financing the Transition to Inclusive Green Economies in Africa, looking at imperatives, opportunities, and policy options. I'm pleased, Your Excellency, to advise you that the primary objective of this conference is to promote the economic and social development of the African member states, to foster intra-regional trade and promote international cooperation for Africa's development. Your Excellency, some of the issues that were discussed during this Committee of Experts meeting, which is the first half, they included multiple issues that Africa is grappling with, such as limited fiscal and monetary space. As Minister of Finance, I know a bit about limited fiscal space, the worsening public debt crisis, the economic fragility, conflict which can be costly, food insecurity in some parts of Africa, and of course, the negative impact of climate change, among others. During the past 5 days of the conference, economic experts, technocrats, and government officials discussed and shared ideas, experiences, and policy suggestions that will guide the continent to collectively address the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead as we transition to inclusive green economies. Your Excellency, Africa's economic growth remains on a positive growth trajectory in the main, driven by export growth, private consumption, gross fixed capital investment in the short to medium term, or albeit at lower levels than before. However, we are cognizant that Africa continued to experience relatively low growth rates, which were not commensurate with the growth potential of the various regions, and also not commensurate with the need to deal with higher unemployment levels and rising poverty in some parts of Africa. Furthermore, the public debt burden in Africa has worsened during the past decade, whilst Africa requires an additional $1.6 trillion by 2030 to achieve the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goal targets, thereby posing a financing gap towards development, the development agenda for the continent, including climate change financing. Your Excellency, in view of the above challenges, policy recommendations put forward by experts include: 1, domestic resource mobilization as a crucial source of finance for development in Africa. 2, the establishment of the single African air transport market to promote movement of people and goods across Africa. 3, the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement to stimulate manufacturing and to increase intra-Africa trade. 4, to accelerate the operationalization of the African financial institutions, as was explained by the Deputy Chair of the AU Commission, Dr. Sanzavaganwa. To develop a portfolio of bankable projects to enhance financing possibilities is yet another recommendation. And yet another one is to develop capabilities, capacities related to carbon markets, green and blue bonds, and biodiversity credits as sources of finance to finance development. Finally, having a strong African voice in the calling for high integrity carbon markets that are globally aligned and transparent. Furthermore, areas earmarked for achieving the SDGs by the ECA include digital connectivity, food security, employment creation, energy access and affordability of that energy, social protection, and obviously climate change response. Your Excellency, the African Development Agenda can be achieved with the ECA supporting its members in implementing structural reforms to revive growth and political commitment at the regional, sub-regional, and national levels, and in implementing regional integration. Your Excellency, the resource mobilization and economic strategies emanating from this conference will help us further strengthen our policies, minimize the negative impact of climate change. It will drive development of Africa as we move towards achieving the goals of Agenda 2063, so we can achieve the Africa we want, as the African Union has pronounced. Allow me now, colleagues and Your Excellency, to move over to the main task that I've been asked to do here, which is to introduce our guest of honor, His Excellency the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, Dr. E.D. Mnangagwa. Colleagues, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe has shown distinctive leadership that spans over half a century. He's a Pan-Africanist par excellence. He's a pioneering freedom fighter. He's a transformative leader, and then he's the architect of the Second Republic here in Zimbabwe. He has been in government since 1980. That's 43 years, coming up to 44. As Minister of State Security, he was also a member of Parliament. He has been Minister of Justice and Parliamentary Affairs. He has been Minister of Finance. He has been Speaker of Parliament. He has been Minister of Rural Housing and Social Amenities. He has been Minister of Defense. He has been Vice President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, and now he's the President of Zimbabwe. Please welcome to this podium His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Zimbabwe, to give his keynote address. Your Excellency, sir.